Hello everybody, welcome back to the Innovation Series. Today I want to introduce you to the concept of micro web apps. You could think of them as microservices, but basically they're just little UIs that serve a purpose. Now there could be many times when you need a small UI, maybe it's an input form, maybe it's a report rendering. It's just something that kind of lives on the periphery that you need to serve either an operational purpose or a management purpose, etc. So don't confuse this with building applications or whole systems or anything like that. Think of this as these kind of little web apps that don't have a good home. And what we're going to be doing today is just an exploration. So again, this is not productized. You can do everything I've done. Again, I'm doing this in a production environment, but it is kind of twisting the product in a way that it wasn't designed for. So keep that in mind. Think of this as just a thought exercise. And so the way this works is that we would have basically another HTTPS message representing loading a website. And so that's going to be listened to again by our webhook handler. You might have seen this in other demos. It's kind of really just a general purpose component for receiving web events. And what that webhook handler does is it raises an event, which then could go through security functions, which I've covered in different videos, so I won't get into that. But think of it as you have a way to kind of review that event before it's loaded or acted upon by the server function. And then using our triggers, it's being basically passed down to a server function, which then returns back HTML. So unlike traditional kind of microservices or serverless functions that generally return JSON data or XML data, etc., this one just returns a rendering of a web page and potentially some code inside it for the front end to load. So again, not kind of a traditional use of it. It is a little bit of a twist. However, I do think that if we apply the right productization, this could potentially become a good feature. And so in today's demo, I have 3 of these. I have one for loading a list of products from Shopify. I have one for creating a new product and one for viewing the details of a product. And I'll show you those in just a bit. So the value here is that you could really build small full stack apps quickly. So my apps have a UI, they have a server function that can perform logic, and then they access some backend API, or they could even access a database. So you technically kind of are building all 3 layers here in one shot and it's one server function. And you could do this really quickly. The main innovations is that webhook handler being able to receive and deliver events, the server function structure that basically hosts and runs your server function for you. And then also I would say a lot of credit goes to the AI agent here for being able to quickly generate HTML. So you supply it a model, say, hey, I want to take this function with this particular model, and I want you to build me an HTML page for a form that takes the following inputs. Now, I went quick and dirty, so you'll see there's nothing impressive about my UI here. Just wanted to kind of showcase the full stack. And like I mentioned a little bit, the vision here is that really we could have UIs that are potentially auto-generated by AI using the poly functions. So imagine you select the function and you say, give me a UI for this function, and maybe you add an additional prompt, and then you basically, the AI's job would be to just render or generate the HTML that would render to serve that purpose. Again, we're not going to hide this from the user. The idea is that the AI would give you the code, you would take it, and you would run it yourself. But it really could accelerate it, and having those poly functions as the underlying models where the AI knows exactly what this operation does, it knows exactly what the inputs are and outputs are, it definitely speeds up the ability for the AI agent to then interpret that and build a decent UI for you. All right, with that, let's go ahead and actually watch the demo first in the UI, and then I'll go into the code behind the scenes and show you how it works. All right, so here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and load the first endpoint. So this is basically the webhook execute endpoint, and you just gotta make sure that it's a get and that it returns HTML. And so we could see my not impressive UI at all, so please don't judge me for my UI skills. But we'll just do a quick sanity check. So 27 cubic foot refrigerators are top product, and Wrangler jeans is our bottom product. We'll go to Shopify and we'll see that that lines up. So we have our 27, and then we have our Wrangler jeans. So this is pulling live information from Shopify. We can actually test that out by maybe going into the first product. And here's my details page. If you're astute enough, you would have noticed that it's actually a different webhook endpoint, right? So each of these pages is its own site or app. You can think of it that way. This app's purpose is just to render some information. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just change the price in Shopify from $1,599 to $1,499 so that we can see it reload here. So let's go into Shopify and do that here. And so we'll make this one. And my little microsite doesn't take variance into account. It just loads the price of the first variant. So if you're familiar with Shopify, that's what's going on here. And then let's go ahead and reload this product. And we could see that the price is now $14.99. So it's pulling live data from Shopify and it's returning HTML to render it. Now, lastly, let's go ahead and create a new product. And we'll go ahead and click create. And all we need to provide is a name and a description. So I'll do something like our new product, our description. And before I hit create, I'm gonna go ahead and go to Shopify and just show you guys that, you know, there's P, there's J, there's R, there's no our new product. So let's go ahead and create it real quick. And we can see it's been created. And now if we go to Shopify and refresh, we can see that we have our new product with our description. So again, just to summarize, these microsites are really just meant to be kind of little apps that don't have a good home in any system. Maybe they're built for a partner, maybe they're built for some specific operational role. And the idea is that if you can knock these out in a matter of hours, have them stood up, have them launched, while still consuming your underlying APIs, following the security model, basically having, you know, all the benefits of your APIs with the ability to quickly stand up a UI for a user who's maybe not going to be working against JSON data, or just you need a different representation that's more human readable. Now, let me go to VS Code and show you how it's built. If you're not interested in learning how these are built, feel free to drop off here. And if you are, I'll see you in a second. So here we are in VS Code. If you're familiar with Poly, which I'm assuming you are, you'll notice that we have basically async functions. These are the function that gets deployed to the Poly server, where Poly runs it for you. I basically set some configs for my demo store. I inject my token at runtime using kind of a best security practice. So if my app were ever to get compromised, I don't have access to any of the Shopify or backend system tokens. We just do a simple get against Shopify. And then we have a base URL, which basically we use to build a rendering of the product. So here, I'm actually hard coding a link to the other web app, which is the get details one that basically renders it. Really, I probably should just make this a var variable so that it's dynamic as well, so that if I do potentially, decommission that micro app and stand up a new micro app for rendering, I can just with one click change it to point to a different app. So maybe a little bit of improvement I can do. Here's some very basic HTML, but the idea is that you can inject your HTML here. I think there's going to be a lot of room for improvement and innovation here, where you can actually kind of design and build out pages and reference them kind of almost like templates or components. I haven't fully thought this through, but here what I'm trying to say is that I'm hard coding HTML, and that's the hacky part of this. I think there's room to do a lot better there. And then a little bit of code that basically just iterates through every product and generates one of these links, basically assembles the links. And then I'm using Poly Custom to set the type so that the browser would know how to render it, and then set the status code. And I'm just returning the HTML. Same idea for the details. And then the create product function that I showed you for creating that new product, same idea, just an HTML body with an input form, some JavaScript. Again, I could probably take this to the next level and kind of better structure the code here. But nonetheless, basically just an input form, and then the client-side call will actually go straight against the server function execute endpoint, every server function that you deploy with Poly implicitly also gets an execute endpoint in addition to being able to be used through Poly. You do have to supply the authorization credentials, so I need to write some additional code here. I removed my token for the sake of the demo, but here you can inject your token from Vari, etc. So there's a lot of great stuff you can do here, but again, I think we need to level up this experience to be both more easy to develop against, but also more secure and innovative. But nonetheless, just wanted to paint this picture that you can actually use Poly for microsites to then build out these little web apps that can do things like even create operations such as this one. So with that, thank you very much for watching the demo. If you have any questions or feedback or would like to learn more, as always, feel free to reach out, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Thank you so much.